Okay, welcome back. This is kind of an exciting uh, next series of videos. This is part of the Python for DevOps series. I just finished chapter 11 in the last video, but before going on to chapter 12, I want to just go through the tutorial that the book uh, walked through. So in chapter 11, the book used this tutorial here, or this set of tutorials, uh, Flask by example from realpython.com. And then it kind of went off and did some extra things, diverted a little bit from what was in the actual tutorial. Um, I found that to be not really the best thing because the book used like a special resource that I couldn't access, Amazon EC2, um, that or perhaps I could access, but I didn't really want to like make an account, fill out a bunch of personal information, you know, potentially even give over like a credit card, something like that. So I think the real Python tutorial is going to be, even without those diversions from the book, is really going to be uh, worth the diversion from this series to just go through that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go through this Flask by example learning path, free, no signups, no nothing. You can just go through it. Now you can sign up. You can see I am signed in to track your progress and do other things like that. But when it comes to referencing it on the job, let's say you can't log into any accounts like that. As long as you have a public internet connection, you can go back and reference the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to start with the project setup uh, part. Deploying a Python Flask example application using Heroku. So I wish they had like an estimated time to completion, but you can see we've got um, quite a bit to go. I think this diversion might take um, even up to a few weeks, but that's okay. I think it'll be worth it. In this tutorial, you'll create a Python Flask example application and deploy it using Heroku, making it publicly available on the web. Heroku removes much of the infrastructure burden related to building and running web applications, allowing you to focus on creating an awesome app. And there is a web application I want to create. It's a weather application, and basically it's a warning for areas that have what's known as a wet bulb condition, and that's a condition of 95% or higher humidity with a temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. In that sort of weather condition, sweat from your body no longer cools your internal temperature. So you can think of it like a steam room in a gym. So steam room in a gym, it's really good for you. Recommend people use their steam rooms, assuming that they have no medical conditions uh, that would uh, assuming that they're cleared by their personal doctor to use a steam room. But of course, nobody in their right mind would recommend somebody stay in a steam room for 24 hours, to work out in a steam room, to only use it for even a like a bubble bath, a hot bath. You really only want to be in there for 15 minutes to get the health benefits. Anything longer than that starts to become a danger to your health. So these wet bulb conditions um, are just a steam room that never goes away, and they're becoming more and more common. So hopefully, if there's a way I can kind of pivot from this tutorial to making that dream come true, to for me to build a web that warns of those conditions, um, that will be great. But for now, let's just stay on Rails as much as possible and try to complete this as fast as possible so I can get on to chapter 12 in the book. Besides deploying the app, you'll use Git to track changes to the code, and you'll also configure a deployment workflow with different environments for staging and production. Using this setup, you'll be able to test and preview the app before releasing it. And I'm sorry, I'm pausing quite a bit, but I do need to pause a little bit longer. I'll be back real soon and continue reading this tutorial. All right, I'm back. In this tutorial, you will learn how to create a Python Flask example web application, deploy the web application using Heroku, implement a deployment workflow using Heroku pipelines, manage configuration and secrets for different environments in a secure way. Sorry, I think I need to like take a run or like exercise or something because I'm just not feeling it today. But this intro is pretty short, so let's just keep on going. This tutorial assumes that you understand the basics, and of course I can just pause it and try to exercise for 15 minutes and come back. I might do that actually, but let me get through this section. This tutorial assumes that you understand the basics of how web applications work and that you have some experience using Git. To get up to speed on these topics, check out Python web applications with Flask tutorial series and Introduction to Git and GitHub for Python developers. So really good for anyone watching this. You have no idea what I'm talking about. It's all ahead. You're worried if you'll be able to understand what I'm doing. Go back and check out these two things. I think this is the one that I have done before. Yeah, this is the tutorial I've done before. So I don't think I've done Flask by example before, but I've definitely done a tutorial on Flask. I just can't remember which specific one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was this one. And then for Git, I use Git at work. I use Git personally, so I'm pretty comfortable with Git. It's a pretty um, kind of feature-rich thing. So like, there's always something new I could learn. So you know, I'm tempted to even diverge out and do these, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep going. If I have to take the L on a lot of things, as I've been doing, I think I probably will end up going back and doing these, but I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to get through this tutorial with the foundational knowledge I already have. As you'll learn through this tutorial, by combining Flask and Heroku, you can minimize the effort required to create and run web applications. You can click the link below to get the full source code for this tutorial's application. So here we go. This will probably take us to GitHub. Oh, okay. So you got to have it emailed to you. Okay, so the next section is creating the Python Flask example application. Obviously, I'm a little bit disheveled, so I'm gonna see if I take like a 10-15 minute exercise, change some things up, and come back. I think just a quick half-hour break will make the next part of these videos a lot easier to produce. So I'm going to do that. I'll be back hopefully in under an hour. All right, I'm back. I do feel a lot better, so let's continue on with this. Creating the Python Flask example application. In this section, you'll learn how to create a Python Flask example application and run it locally. You're going to initialize the project, install Flask, create the application, and run it on your computer. You'll also learn how to use Git to version your application's code. So I've already been through all this. It'll be a review, but this is like the perfect tutorial for anyone new to this. So for the benefit of this channel, I'll definitely not skip this. All right, first step is installing the project. The project initialization consists of creating a directory for your application, setting up a Python virtual environment where dependencies will be installed, and initializing the Git repository. You don't have to use a virtual environment or Git for local development, but they are very convenient and will make development and deployment to Heroku simpler. Start by creating a new directory for the Python Flask example app. You can do it by running these commands. Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to set up a new lab for this. So I'm going to make a new project, which I can do here. And I'm going to name it Flask by example. Okay, yep. So, and I'll click OK. Don't want the newest version. I've got to install it on my server and on my client version to do that, which sometimes is harder than you would think. Okay, so I've got Flask by example opened right now, we can see. So let's add some devices to it. First thing we're going to need is access to the internet. And then the second thing we're going to need is a Linux VM. It looks like they haven't given they haven't kind of dictated a OS to use. Let's take a look at the commands. So we've got MDR. Let's look ahead and see what additional commands they might be. Okay, so it looks like they say nothing as far as whether you should use yum, zipper, apt-get, anything like that. So they really don't make a recommendation on the kind of OS to use. So I'm going to go with Ubuntu. I just like that one. I find it one of the easier ones to use. So we're gonna do the full thing. We're not gonna just stick to Ubuntu Docker. We want all the pretty images, everything like that. Okay, so we should have internet access once this boots up. So I'm gonna boot it up, log in, and then ping 8.8.8.8. If I can do all that, I'll continue on. In the meantime, I think I do have some more reading to get through. So let's just do the reading and then issue the commands once the virtual machine is available. Start by creating a new directory for the Python Flask example app. You can do it by running these commands. The above commands create a real Python-example-app folder and change the current directory to it. Next, you must create a Python virtual environment. Using a virtual environment allows you to manage your project's dependencies without messing with system level files shared by all applications. Run the following commands to create and activate a virtual environment for your application. Remember to change the directory to real Python-example-app if you haven't already. Really, really nice. The tutorial I took, I remember having lots of difficulty with because they didn't give clear instructions to change the directory. And I found out after hours and hours of troubleshooting and reaching out to people and getting help that the issues I was dealing with were I was in the wrong directory. And I actually participated in a code mentorship meetup and mentored somebody on this tutorial. And it was the same deal with them. They didn't understand which directory they had to be in to issue the commands. So this already is one of the better tutorials I've done because they make it really clear which directory you have to be in when you follow these examples. These commands create a virtual environment named venv and activate it. So packages will be loaded and installed from this environment instead of using the system level packages. Installing dependencies. The first step is to install the Flask Python package. You can run the following command to install Python using, or to install Flask using pip, and it's a Python command. It's a -m stands for module, pip, and then you feed pip specific commands. So the command install, and then Flask, and then these equal signs mean you're going to install a specific version. The above command installs Flask version 1.1.2. This is the version you'll use throughout this tutorial. Next, you need to create a requirements.txt file listing the project dependencies. You can use the python 3-m pip freeze command for this task. Yep, so this is a really good way to create this requirements.txt file. This means redirect the output of this command into a file named that. So instead of creating a file yourself, figuring out what your requirements are, adding them to the file, you can just see which requirements you already have installed. And if you have a virtual environment, all of the requirements you have installed will be specific to that virtual environment. So you won't be putting in a lot of extra requirements that aren't needed for the thing you're running, assuming that you're only using your virtual environment for your current project and you're not using it for multiple projects. So so yeah, this demonstrates the power of virtual environments as well. If you did this command python-n pip freeze and you weren't in a virtual environment, this file would be loaded up with just every Python uh, library you had installed. So using those virtual environments is really powerful, and we see it already here with the one of the first commands given in this tutorial, just how helpful it is to have a virtual environment. You'll use requirements.txt when deploying the project to tell Heroku which packages must be installed to run your application code. To learn more about how to install Flask in a virtual environment or other pip options, check out the Flask installation documentation and What is pip, a guide to new Pythonistas. Now the application directory should look like this. In the following sections, you'll add more files to implement the application logic, set up Git, and then deploy it to Heroku. Okay, so we've got some commands to issue here. First command, we're going to be creating that directory, but of course we need a server to create it on first. Here we've got a VM on my lab, so we'll use this. Okay, and I like to customize this. I wish I could just have it automatically customized the way I want it. I'm not sure how to do that. I'm sure there's a way. Okay, so let's take a look at what we get by default and where to create that directory. So right now I'm in home/gns3. GNS3 is just my username. It's not specific to the GNS, the installation of GNS3 I have right now. So this is going to be fine. Now I might want to put it in documents, download, or not downloads, but definitely documents, maybe public. Um, but let's just put it at this level for now. So we're going to do mkdir real Python example app cd. Okay, and then we can just tab that out and now add the rest of the commands. First command is Python 3 command to create the virtual environment. Oh, so it looks like we've got a problem here. We don't have uh, the ability to create virtual environments installed yet. So let's install that. Oh, so we've got an error here. Looks like it's not able to find some things. So let's do a sudo apt get update just to make sure we're ready to go. All right, and then I'd like to do two more things before trying that command again. Now it does look like I do have access to the internet, otherwise these would be failing out. I wouldn't be able to fetch anything. But I just want to do a ping to 8.8.8.8 anyway, just because that sometimes, just for the psychological benefit. But the one that I really want to do a ping to is google.com. Now for this, it's also psychological because we can see it was able to resolve these. So I do know DNS is working. But if you're unsure if DNS will work or not, this is definitely a good way to find out. You can see in my case, these pings were successful. It was able to resolve this name to this IP address. So the DNS is working on this virtual machine. But those are definitely really good troubleshooting steps to take if there are issues. In my case, there weren't any issues. I just decided to do them anyway for peace of mind. So let's try that command again to install the ability to create virtual environments. Okay, and then we'll try the command given in the actual tutorial. Perfect, so no problems there. Let's see if we can activate that. Now you can make it any name you want. It doesn't have to be named VNV. Here it does have to be VNV because you have to specify the module you're feeding to the command. But this second instance of VNV can be anything you want. But for me, I typically find if you do that, you're just going to get confused when you do a LS, and you're not going to be able to tell at a glance that it actually is a Python virtual environment. If you just name it VNV, there's no confusion there. So now what you might want to do is maybe create, because you can activate a virtual environment based on any um, uh, file path that you're in or present working directory that you're in. So it might make sense to just create a folder of VNVs, and then just, if you're doing a bunch of projects, have all of your VNVs for the projects in those folders, and then you would name your VNVs something like this, VNV underscore my project one, and then you go in that folder when you want to work on project one, and you see the VNV there, you activate that. So that might be a good idea if you're working multiple projects. But to be honest, I would even probably not do that myself. I would just always put this VNV in the parent directory of the project I was working on. I don't really see a need to have them all in the same area. Um, and then another kind of reason why it's fine to have it in a project like this is when you're doing, we're going to learn about Git soon, but you can create a file in Git called a ignore file. So it's named .git ignore, and you can tell it anything here to just completely ignore it. So you're going to want to include these VNVs in your git ignore file so that you're not pushing uh, large modules up to your public repo. That just adds way too much of your project to push in and out. And you're really not doing anyone any advantages too when you include that. They can just create their own virtual environment and download the modules themselves, and then your project is going to download much faster. That they're going to appreciate that a lot more. And then you're less likely to run out of space in wherever you're hosting the project to. So, okay, so we've got a few more commands to enter here. Next command is installing Flask. And we're going to install probably a much older version of it by now. I'm not sure what the latest version is, but we are going to specify to use the version in this tutorial. That's the big power of this. You can, so we know if we have any issues, it's not because we're using a different version. We're using the same version in the tutorial. The other thing we can see here when I downloaded it is these nice visuals here. This is another advantage of using a virtual environment. It's optimized for doing things like pip installs, so you'll get a much prettier output when it's installing it to a virtual environment that's optimized for these things than if you were just installing it without a virtual environment. It would look a lot uglier than that. All right, we've got at least one more command here. Okay, so now we've got a requirements file. We can see everything. So we've got a number of extra things. Those were installed when we installed Flask. They're dependencies on Flask. So when you do that pip freeze, you've got all of your dependencies as well. And not only that, you've got the specific version. So if you were to not do that pip freeze and just include Flask in there, even with the version specified, you might have a case where a user of your program installs Flask version 1.1.2, but now one of their dependencies are different. So really important to have a virtual environment created and to do a pip freeze to build your requirements.txt file to make absolutely sure that nothing goes wrong when it's run on a different operating system or a Docker container or whatever it's run on. You want to make sure it runs the same on a different operating system, different environment than you developed it on. Okay, so let's take a look at the application directory. We're going to use the command tree, which I don't have right now, so we're actually going to install it. Sudo apt install tree. Oh, so it looks like my environment right now doesn't look uh, Okay, so something's going wrong with tree. Oh, I think I've got to do a -x, otherwise it'll... Wait, what the heck? I'm really confused. I don't understand why tree is printing out stuff that's not in my directory. Oh, you know what? So what's going on is it's printing out um, the contents of VNV. So that's why I get page after page after page of results, because in here it's just printing out that there's a directory. It's not printing out the results of the directory, but here we are seeing everything that's in that directory. So I wonder if there's a way I can do a tree listing without showing uh, the contents of directories. I just want to see the names of the files and the directories that are a child of my current directory. I'm sure there's a way to do that, but we'll need to look it up. I thought .x would do it. Maybe -l? I guess I want to try -l. If -l doesn't work, I'm just going to move on. So -l works. We can see if we do -l1, we only get what's in this current one. If I do -l2, we get one further step into the folder. -3, now we're seeing what is inside the folders that is inside the folders. We're seeing that 3 levels deep, so on and so forth. We can see there's more folders inside the folders that are inside the VNV folder. So if we add one more level to go down, now we can see what's in those folders as well. So -l is a pretty useful switch if you just want to see the files and directories that are a child of your current present working directory, but you don't want to see anything inside of the directories. -l1 is a really solid command to know. Writing the application code. In this section, you'll create a small Flask application with a single route index that returns the hello world, returns the text hello world when requested. To create a Flask application, you have to create a Flask object that represents your app and then associate views to routes. Flask takes care of dispatching incoming requests to the correct view based on the request URL and the routes you've defined. You can click the link below to get the full source code for this tutorial's application. We're not going to need that. We're going to be typing it out. For small applications like the one you're working with in this tutorial, you can write all the code in a single file, organizing your project as follows. apt.py contains the application's code where you create the app and its views. The following code block shows the application's full source code. Okay, so we're going to work on that now. This is app.py, I believe it was called. I'll go and double check that. Yep, app.py. And now I want to go into edit mode. All right, so let's type this out. After you import Flask, the code creates the object app, which belongs to the Flask class. The view function index is linked to the main route using the app.route decorator. Now, what's interesting here is technically this is not a function. Because we have these parentheses here, this is the result of the function because this is a called function. So technically this is a string. It's a string hello world. If they were referring to the function, technically they should just say index without it being called. When the main route is requested, Flask will serve the request by calling index and using its return value as the response. Running the Flask example locally. There are different ways in which you can run the application that you created in the previous section. One of the most straightforward ways to launch a Flask app for local development is using the Flask Run command from a terminal. All right, so let's try that. Okay, so that worked. By default, Flask will run the application you defined in app.py on port 5000. While the application is running, go to http://localhost:5000 using your web browser. Okay, let's try that. You'll see a web page containing the message "Hello World." Okay, and we're gonna go to it in on the same device that we're developing on. There we go, and it works. If we go to it on a different device, so if I do localhost colon 5000, now we're talking about a different computer. We're no longer talking about this VM here. We're talking about the my actual laptop. So my laptop doesn't have Flask running on it, so this localhost address doesn't connect to anything. Uh, this site can't be reached because there is no site being hosted on this local host. Now, one of the things you can do, which kind of makes this a confusing concept sometimes, is you can forward that port so that now your local laptop is having this show up um, through it being forwarded and accessible through port forwarding. Um, and I can show how that works. It might be confusing. Actually, I think I'm going to skip that because I don't have PuTTY installed. But you would just use an SSH client like PuTTY, and you'd form an SSH connection, and then you would set up port forwarding on that, and then you would forward port 5000. And then once you did that, you could do localhost colon 5000 on another machine and get to this here. So that's kind of a confusing concept sometimes, this idea of a local host, because you can technically be referring to a remote host even though you have a local host, but technically, you're still referring to your own local host because the remote host is being forwarded over to your local host. But of course, when you're not doing that, as I am not doing that, you just get unable to connect because there is no forwarding, there is nothing being hosted. That's only happening on this VM where we can see we do have this hello world message showing up successfully. During development, you normally want to reload your application automatically whenever you make a change to it. You can do this by passing an environment variable, flask_env equals development, to Flask Run. Oh, okay, that's nifty. Let's do that. So, oops, it looks like, let's just leave that running, and then we'll open a new terminal. There we go. So, and now we'll have to change directory into it. We'll have to start the virtual environment. You can have multiple instances of a virtual environment going. That's totally fine. And then we'll do flask env equals development flask run. Now, one of the things with this though, okay, never mind. We can't do that um, because it's already in use. We'll have to deactivate it before we can make that change. So let's go ahead and do that. If I hit a Control C, we're no longer running that. So if I do a refresh on this, unable to load the page because we're no longer hosting that page. So let's now add it as a environment variable. Okay, and now it will automatically uh, apply the changes and reload the server. So when you set this, Flask will monitor changes to app files and reload the server when there's a change. This way you don't need to manually stop and restart the server after each modification. Tracking changes using Git. In this tutorial, you're going to track changes to your project's files using Git, a very popular version control system, VCS. So as a first step, you should create a Git repository for your project. You can achieve this by executing the following command in your project's directory. So we're going to leave the development running. If I reload it now that I've started it up again, we've got our message back again. This successfully resolves. So I will leave that running. So as we're doing changes, we can just hit refresh and look at our changes in real time. So I'm going to need to create a Git repository. I use the command git init for that. There we go, initialized empty Git repository. The above command initializes the repository that will be used to track the project's files. The repository metadata is stored in a hidden directory named .git. So if I do an ls, looks like I didn't do anything, right? Well, that's because you have to do -a in order to see hidden directories. A hidden directory has a dot as the first character in the directory name, and those directories hide when you just list out the directories without special flags that show the hidden directories. So here you can see we've got hidden directories, including this dot, which means the current directory. So if I were to do a cd, if I do a pwd and do a cd dot and another pwd, you can see I'm in the same directory. The second hidden directory is this dot dot, which means the upper level directory. So we can see the directory I'm in now. If I do a cd dot dot and then a pwd, pwd, not a pwed, we can see we're now positioned at this directory, which was before the directory, which was a parent of this child directory that we were in before. The final hidden directory is this .git directory. So let's do a cd into that, and then a pwd. You can see we're in the .git directory. We'll do an ls, and you can see now we've got all kinds of files and folders that allow us to use Git version control. Okay. Note that there are some folders that you shouldn't include in the Git repository, like VNV and PyCache. To tell Git to ignore them by creating a file, you can tell Git to ignore them by creating a file named .gitignore. Use the following commands to create this file. Really, really good tutorial so far. A lot of tutorials won't tell you about this. So this tutorial is probably one of the best tutorials I've done so far. I recommend anyone doing this. Really, really glad I'm doing this on this channel. So we're going to do the first command, which is echo vnv, redirect to the gitignore file. Perfect. Dunder PyCache. And we're gonna use two chevrons. The reason you would use two instead of one is because if you use only one chevron, you overwrite what's in that file, you remove what was in there previously, and you only add what you had in there. If you use two of them, then you append. So at the end of the file, you add what you are, what the echo command is, and you don't modify anything before that. Okay, so now we're going to add these files to our version control. And then we're going to create our first commit in this GitHub repository. Oh, so this is something that's not in the tutorial, but the help on it is so good. When you create this commit and you push it up, and then somebody comes back later and looks at the commits that we'll make, they're not going to know who you are. They're just going to see some generic message, and if there's an issue with it, or if they want to know more about what the commit did, they won't know who to go over and ask about. So they're going to have to only rely on what message you put in there, which oftentimes is just not enough. So it'll tell you on your first commit, or just anytime this is not defined, uh, to identify yourself, which is what we would do here through these commands, so that you can be contacted when somebody goes back and looks at your commits. So we're going to do that. We're going to do uh, I'm not sure. Yeah, let's set this up. So we're going to do config global, and then we're going to do user.email. We'll just do GNS3, or we'll just do real Python at, or you know what? Let's just do my name. We'll do a gram at fake.com, and then we'll do git config global user.name, and then just my first name. There we go. After running the above commands, Git will track your application's file, but will ignore VNV and PyCache folders. Now the project directory, real Python-example-app, should look like this. So we'll do a tree-L1 and verify. L stands for levels. So there we go. We've got, oops. So it looks like we're going to need another flag to see those hidden files with tree. So let's do a help on tree and see if we can find that. Okay, so I think we can just do a -A and see all files. Well, we want to see all directories, hidden directories, and all files, but let's just try the -A and see if that's enough. So we'll put the -A here. Okay, yep, so that's enough. We've got our directories and our files that were previously hidden. Okay, so let's count how many we've got. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like there's an extra one here that they don't have. Let's try to identify which one that is. So .git, got that right here. .bnv, got that here. Git ignore, we've got that here. App.py, we've got that here. Requirements, got that. Oh, okay. So they don't have a PyCache yet. This automatically generates after you issue some commands. So that makes sense. Eventually, this will have that there. So mine doesn't look like this, but it's just because I did an extra step that they haven't done that automatically generated this file, which we do have added to the git ignore. So this is totally fine. Another thing that might confuse beginners, I think probably would have confused me, is, oh, well, if it's in the git ignore file, why are we seeing this? Why are we seeing this? I thought we ignored it. So yes, we ignored it, but we ignored it as part of the revision control, not just as part of what we see on the command line here. So it's important to kind of understand the context you're in, and that's something I think is hard for beginners to catch on to. Understanding that you're in different contexts. So yes, we are ignoring those files. No, they won't disappear from these kinds of output because we're ignoring them in the context of Git source control. If we were to do a Git, um, uh, oh, what command is that? I forget. But if we were to do a command in Git, oh yeah, well, Git status, I think will be one. Well, anyways, through various Git commands, you can confirm that they are actually ignored in the context of Git version control. You're now ready to deploy your app using Heroku. Check out Introduction and to Git and GitHub for Python developers to learn more about Git and how you can host your repository in GitHub. Deploying the application to Heroku. Okay, so yeah, you know what? I could add this to my GitHub. I think I might do that. Um, yeah, I might do that. Let me do that. So one of the things I've got to do is add my SSH key. So I don't know if I'm. Uh, I'll do that off. Well, I kind of want to show people how to do this too, because this is another thing that um, can trip up beginners. I think a lot of the times is permission settings. So you just go down to your account settings here. You go to SSH and GPG keys. I'm going to put this off in my other screen when I click on that because I think I do have some keys that I don't particularly want to share. But on the screen, it's pretty self-explanatory. There'll be a big green button that says New SSH Key. You just click that, and then over on your device here, you do you go to the hidden folder .ssh. Um, okay, and sometimes you'll have to generate an SSH key. Um, if it's a new device, you'll have to do that every time. So let me go here and then do Linux generate SSH key. Now there might be instructions for this. No instructions just right on the Linux page, but yeah. So if we do SSH keygen, that should do it. Okay, so let's do that command, ssh keygen. Yep, that looks good to me. Don't need a passphrase. There we go. So now we've got that folder I tried to go into before. We've got a few files in that folder. We've got id underscore RSA and id underscore .pub. The .pub is the key we need to add to Linux. Oh, sorry, not to Linux, to GitHub. I'm going to do this off my screen as well. There's no reason to make this public if I don't have to, so I'm just not going to. Even though it's basically just, it doesn't matter to make it public, but okay, so I've got to figure out how to add this to my clipboard. Okay, one thing I can do is just pull up GitHub in my virtual lab and log in there. Huh, I don't know why the login prompt is like really buried for some reason on the main site. Like I can click sign up, but I can't click sign in anywhere. Okay, you have to click sign up and then sign in. Okay, so I've got my key added now. So let me open a new terminal. Yep, and now I'm good to share everything. I'm not sharing anything private. It's a pretty easy process, but I'm not going to demo it here because generally you do want to keep your public keys safe, even if it's just a throwaway lab environment like this. Just to build the habit is always a good thing. So okay, so that is done. So now I can do a get push. If I do a cd real Python, and then I do a get push. Uh, oh, I've got to configure a push location. So let's do that. We're gonna say get remote add. We're gonna name it real Python example app. Okay, and then we'll give it a URL. So I'll probably need to create this. Okay, so now we've got a link for our remote location. We're gonna have that be this. So let's go and add that to the command. Here we go. And then we'll do a git push. Okay, we don't have any branches yet, so we got to create a a branch that we're gonna push this to, or a default branch. Okay, so we'll have that be the master branch. I've got to get this in my clipboard before I paste it. There we go. But we don't have a master branch. Okay, so here they're giving us a series of commands we can use. Okay, so to push an existing directory, uh, yep, we did this already. Now, I did make one mistake here. I used a different name instead of origin. Let's go ahead and reissue this command so that it's origin instead of the name I used, which was real Python-example-app. Origin is, we're going to see that a lot in documentation when we go and reference things online. So it's better to keep that kind of more the standard naming than to use something custom that'll just come back and confuse things later on. Okay, and I'm a little bit worried I have two now. Let's see if I can do a git remote and like a status command, or is there something like that? Or like git dash v. Yeah, git remote dash v. Let's try that. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately, it looks like we've got um, two of them. So let's see if there's a git remote command to remove a remote location. Okay, yep. So git remote remove. Okay, so now if we do a git remote dash v, we've only got the one location. Perfect. Okay, so next step is to set up a branch. It looks like they're using a name main. I guess I'm not used to that. Normally, I would call it master. Let's just go with what they've got though. Um, huh. All right, well, let's try it, naming it master instead. No, it's still not working. Yeah, so we don't have any branches in here. Um, huh. Nothing. Okay, so this is why a lot of people find Get to be really frustrating. It's just so specific that like you basically can't just include easy to follow universal instructions for anyone to stumble upon and get things working. They really just have to kind of figure out what's going on in their environment and use the specific Git commands necessary to address their specific situation. So for me, I think I can do a Git checkout dash b master. Yeah, and now I can probably do uh, these commands. So let's do a git branch m main. Okay, well I can't do that. Let's see if I can do a git push now though. Git push origin master. Oh, you know what? It looks like I didn't have any commits yet on the master branch. Um, Now, what I like to do usually is use something called Visual Studio, which kind of helps me see version control a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and switch to that. I just like using that a lot better when it comes to like version control and stuff. I've really gotten used to it, and I definitely like it. So here's a search bar, and we'll type in Visual Studio. All right, don't see anything yet. Ah, here we go. Yep, I really like this, so we will use this. I wonder what this is. It doesn't matter. I'll just go with what I'm familiar with. Install. All right, hopefully it's installing. I don't see any kind of progress bar or anything like that. I'm tempted to click install again. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see. So I needed to. Oh, let's see if it's installed. So no, it's not installed yet. Looks like it was installing, but then it just decided to stop for some reason. So I guess I'll try that again. Nope, it gets to 15% and then it stops. Oh, I think it's going. I'm not sure. Oh, there's a car alarm going off. I'm at an hour mark here and kind of struggling today, so might want to lay this to rest for a while. I was hoping to get through the whole thing. Nothing. Okay. Uh, I'm tempted to Google that. Yeah, let me Google this. I think it's because it's already installing, but I'm surprised I'm not seeing the progress bar. Yeah, it's okay. So I can do snap changes and see my progress that way. Oh, okay. Yep. Now we got an indicator that it's ready to go. If I do snap changes now, I probably won't see anything because it has finished. But I can see things that did finish though with this status of done. So Yep, code is the name for Visual Studio Code. So if I just type in code, enter it, we should see Visual Studio Code opening. Yep, and we do. Perfect. So I like to pin this one to favorites as well. I use it all the time. Although honestly, like it doesn't even need to be in favorites because if you use the code, it will open it. You can have it open to the folder that you're in by using that. So it's you have to use a switch. I believe it's code-R. I could be wrong about that, but we will see. Oh, nope. So I was wrong about that. Let's see what switch is necessary to open it directly to the present working directory that you're in. So you can always do a dash dash help. I mean, not always. It depends on what command you're running, but it is if it doesn't have a dash dash help, it's typically um, not a established piece of software. Ah, here we go. Okay, so now we can use the dash G. Um, oh, wait. Oh, I'm actually confused. Yeah, I don't think dash G is the correct one. All right, let me go to Google with this one. And we'll type how do I open Visual Studio Code from the CLI to my PW. Oh, I should have a must include PWD. Oh, I see. So this you just include it after code. So if you just type in code, um, you're opening it without a directory specified. But if you want to specify a directory, you can just do it right after you type in the command code. And that will show up in the help. Let me show how that will appear. So I do dash dash help, and then I go back here. We can see these are options. Um, but if you go up to the usage section, you can see you can specify those options or you cannot. But the next thing you can do is specify the path. So we're going to choose, if we do a ls-a, we've got these hidden folders, and we've got this dot here, which means our current folder. If I do a cd, if I do a pwd, and then a cd dot, pwd, it doesn't change the folder. It's just specifying the current folder we're in. So if I do code dot, it'll open it directly to the present working directory. Yes, and I do want to trust the authors in this. This looks like a good security feature. you can make it so that any code that would normally execute by opening it will not execute unless you specifically tell it to. But I do want to trust all of the authors. In this case, it's just my lab environment and it's code I'm writing myself. All right, and now we can see I opened this to my home directory. But I don't want to open it to my home directory. I want to open it to the directory I'm using to work on this tutorial, which is this real Python -example-app directory. Now, if I do a code dot here, I'm specifying that directory since it is my present working directory. And we should, yep, so we see it show up at the top there. We see all the files and folders in the directory. But in addition to that, we should get some really helpful things showing up in this option here, source control. We can see our stage changes. We can see the changes that haven't been staged. If we click on this, we can see a comparison. So we can see I added things to the git ignore. So these are changes ready to be pushed. These changes aren't ready to be pushed yet. So yeah, the other way I like to do this is I like to do everything from the terminal. I think you can push directly from here. You can make commits. You can make commits. You can make pushes. But I don't know. I like to. I still like to just do it from the command line. That just seems a little bit easier. Uh, that's just how I learned it. But I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it this way. Let me try it this way. Ah, yes. Oh, okay. So I got to do a poll first. See, this is what I really like. I think I might try to get rid of the habit I have of just using the CLI and kind of ignoring the GUI, because the GUI is really helpful. It gives you images, it gives you what to do. So let's look at that command output. Yeah, so this is the command we tried, and then you can learn more about the CLI by using the GUI too, because we've got the CLI command. So I think I would only use the CLI in the interest of time if I already knew exactly what I wanted to do. But one of the changes I want to make, I think, is using tools a little bit better and using the CLI and using the help and error messages that come out of that. So we can see we've got the thing I was working on before. So let's go and try this push again. Yep, we're going to try everything again. So, and then we see here very clear, try running pull first to integrate your changes. So we're going to do a cancel. Go back to this help menu. Now we're going to select pull. Okay. Show command output. No such file or directory. Okay, so that's interesting that I can't do that. So here's remote. Let's do so let's go to views, source control repositories. So here's one of my repositories. Huh. All right. Well, let me get rid of that view. There we go. Okay, authorization was successful, so perfect. So okay, so let's see if I can push now. Oops, I'd like to get this to go away somehow. I don't know how to get that to go away. I can't see anything underneath it. Okay, okay, you can hit escape to cancel. Let's try a poll one more time. Didn't work. Okay, so this is the story of Git. A lot of people, especially people who are new to it, really find it frustrating and impossible to use. Even people like myself who are familiar with it and use it um, as part of work, oftentimes find themselves really frustrated by it. So, yeah, the version control is important. It's worth it to frustrate yourself and be upset with it. But just be prepared for that. It's everyone kind of hates it, but uh, really likes the results. But using it is a complete nightmare for most people. So don't feel bad if you're trying to use Git and it's just a complete nightmare. Just try to stick it out the best you can. Maybe do a tutorial specifically about it, and just don't give up because it's really important to have versioning set up for your projects. Yeah, I might want to do this. I might want to do this tutorial. You know what? I think I'm going to do that. So that's going to be the end of this video. We're going on hour and a half now, so I'm going to end it here. In the next video, I'm going to do a diversion and do this GitHub tutorial. I think it's just really going to help put things together for me and fill in the gaps in my knowledge. After that, we'll continue reading this tutorial about deploying the application to Heroku. All right, so thanks for watching and see you in the next video.